Let's go into the strength system. Figure out how we're going to plan a great strength day. Notice a couple differences here is that when we do our interval cardio, and of course these are days where maybe you're not doing interval cardio per se or long cardio, you're drilling, you're sparring, you're climbing, you're doing time trials, any of the practicing, whatever it is, the intervals shift during strength week. We spend less time. Okay, maybe with kettlebells, we go a little bit heavier, but that means less time. Okay, we're looking for a 1-to-1 strength ratio. Close to similar heart rate, we're looking for 60 to 75 max heart rate, right? And of course, you can find this more specifically on the website. We're looking for the rep counts 15 to 8, 1-to-1 ish. Work to rep, rest ratios, and a time under tension of no greater than 3 minutes, right? Let me show you an example of 2 microcycles of strength. We're going to bring in the advent here of pyramid sets if we did a quad focused versus a hamstring focused day, right? What we emphasize during strength week is this: 90 seconds of low body, 90 seconds of upper body, for example. So what we did here on day 2 is the cone drill followed by bent over rows with the kettlebell. So it's Penlay rows or renegade rows, right? And on quad day, we did a depth jump for 90 seconds, followed by iso ball toss. Then we did our technical power, all right? Which could have been on the floor for speed, or it could have been overloaded here, right? So what we did on day 1 was a depth jump with an isometric toss. Now remember I brought in that concept of pyramid sets? Well, here's the concept. All right, when we're talking about a muscle group, as your reps go up, your intensity does too, to a point. Where in the middle of the working day, that heart rate is very high. The sets and reps you do is very high, very, very high. Okay? To the maximum work rate you're going to do for the day. After that, we bring it all back down. Right? Your intensity, everything. Pyramid sets. This is a visual representation and a good one, if I might, in that it explains it pretty well. The green is going to represent our intensity. The colors, where the green is the kind of the easier one, red is the hardest. The beginning, right? The max heart rate is greenish, meaning the intensity is low. We're at set number 1, right? Here's number of sets. By set 2, we move up with the reps. Set 3, we might hit 30, and then we bring it all back down. All right? The intensity or the heart rate over here might still actually be really, really high, but this is how we are going to work our pyramid sets when we do our strength days. So maybe by the 3rd set, because we're doing pyramid sets, we start going with a higher depth jump, heavier ball toss, right? We are doing 90 seconds, so we're not looking at rep count, but we are looking at intensity. Both Mark and Chris experienced this with me. Together, we're halfway through our work. We're hitting that sweet spot. We're doing more reps and sets. Okay? One thing that we did on a quad focus day is this. We'll go in and we'll do our squats. And these aren't just any type of squats. These are actually they're squat thrusts, you can call them. but we really tempo these squats so that we elevate really quickly, right? Elevate very quickly. I use the spotter arms here in order to emphasize the turnover of the hips. Because I have the spotter arms, I'm going to go a little heavier than I normally doing a hip thrust. Again, those spotter arms are there just to reinforce the turnover. As soon as we hit those arms, we bounce right back up. After that, we're going to load this isometrically. So as soon as I catch the ball, I peel back into my toss position with a heavier ball. I pause, and then I explode towards the wall. I peel back, I pause, I explode towards the wall. This is a great way to kind of overload this movement. By laying out in that stretched isometric position for the last 90 seconds, I retrain my body how to turn over quickly, right? The last half of this, I'm going to spend going in the other direction. Same thing applies. That heart rate drove well past 140s as I was doing this, 50s. You can see it's very challenging, but not. If I wanted to do this for 3 minutes, I might have to lighten the ball. We saw already that it was very challenging to lift the weight for that 90. And here was the depth jump. A depth jump is a special move. I really enjoy them. A depth jump is coming up to an elevated position, stepping off into a preloaded, hip loaded position, and immediately jumping straight up into the air as high and as hard as you can immediately after landing. Here you notice I just kind of am experimenting with making the move challenging. Mark and I actually put on a weight vest for this a lot of times. I experiment with doing tuck jumps. I experiment with coming up a little bit faster. And there's many ways you can overload this one. With a higher step, with which is what we did with both Chris and Mark. And bringing those knees all the way into the chest after coming off the floor into the depth jump. Whatever you do choose, we are going to go ahead and eccentrically ball toss after this. Notice how bent and balled up those hamstrings get at the bottom of our jump. And then we're going to go right into our eccentric ball toss. Looking very similar to what we just did, except I'm pulling back very slowly, hoping to activate all of those prime movers by stretching the agonists, the antagonists, preparing for the toss. As soon as I get to my pullback turnover point, I launch the ball into the wall. Again, promoting just that stretch, part of the stretch shortening cycle, which is a massive, massive part of producing power. Same thing applies. I used a heavier ball this time than I did doing the original ball toss because we're doing strength and we want to push in that rep count limit. By the way, 90 seconds of doing this type might be around 10, 15 of that toss. So we do get the effect of reps and time under 10. Next, we're going to work with our upper body focus day. And this is hand agility, right? So the hand shuffle, hand agility here, we kind of split the hands and then I add the push up after I swap the hands. You'll need a set of cones. You want those cones to be too close, too apart, then too close again. Starting in that neutral plank position with the hands underneath the armpits, but parallel with the ankles, toes. You want to split the hands. Right one goes high, left one goes low. Switch, then back to middle. Push up. Next set. Left one goes high, right one goes low. Switch, back to middle, push up. Once you get this one going, it is very, very tough. Very challenging. And just a great upper body, fast twitch, strength building move. Not explosive, but very, very intensive. You'll notice that I'm having a trouble doing the push-ups here. So what I do is that down stretch. And then I'm going to go into my renegade row to snatch position right after. Just to make sure that I'm hitting every muscle in that upper body for strength. I choose a weight that I know that I can complete 90 seconds, but it's actually pretty challenging, right? I do my renegade row ladder where I add one every time. I drive that bell up, I twist the side body and open it as I press through. Good. Pumping and twisting into my renegade row to snatch. I'm just easily going to switch every time as I pump and work through this one. It's important for this one that one foot is pointed perpendicular pretty much to the other one and that you really pump and twist. Good. Home stretch right here. Chest is out. The abs have to be tight, and you can lean down on that opposite leg. So that was a great example of what we can do for strength. And remember that doing fewer working sets for a given muscle group means we can do more, right? So at the end of training, we do some plyometrics. I can call this, I like to call it power mobility. We build pathways in type 2 muscle. So we did our pyramid sets. We had 90 by 90. We could turn this into thrusters, push-up variations, Ys and Ts on the suspension trainer, for example. Those can be mixed in as long as we stick with our time under tension and we know and we're smart enough to figure out what moves optimize not just for what we need, but optimize our heart rate variability to the max and our intensity. 75%. This is what I like to do for power mobility on these strength days is this. So I'll spend a couple minutes right now showing you guys some of this power mobility, right? This is the discus to hop. So I'll just twist the body into that discus mode. I'll load up that hip and I'll come into that straight hop. Okay? That's the discus to hop. The next one for power mobility is that super to press. So I want to lift those hands off the floor, squeeze the upper back, turn it right over, put those palms flat, and drive off the floor. Right away, I try to drive as fast as I can, get those chest muscles activated quickly. What we want here is to work that chest power, right? And to work that turnover from relaxed to flexed. That's going to help us build quite a bit of power. And because we're working two sides, front and back of similar muscle groups and rotators, we're adding mobility.